Okay, the subcommittee will now come to order. Good morning. When it comes to jobs in the economy, tourism is a common thread that weaves its way through all 50 states. The leisure and hospitality sector is now the 5th largest employer in the United States. As a subcommittee, what can we do to promote growth in this critically important industry? I'm reminded of something St. Augustine once said, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page." The chair now recognizes herself for an opening statement. Rebounding from both a prolonged recession and the demoralizing 9/11 terrorist attacks on our nation, tourism is once again a growth industry in America. Clearly, sustaining that growth as well as creating long-term stability in the tourism marketplace are keys to creating tens of thousands of new jobs across the United States. The President's Task Force on Travel and Competitiveness has set a lofty goal of attracting 100 million international visitors who spend $250 billion annually by the end of 2021. Can we accomplish that goal? Well, as chairman of the subcommittee, here's my answer. Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. Today, tourism is among the top 3 employers in 29 states, and it's the #1 industry in my district, which includes Palm Springs, Palm Desert, Coachella, and the entire Coachella Valley. Last year, tourism nationwide generated $1.2 trillion in economic activity and supported nearly 8 million jobs. But here's what's really encouraging. In 2011, travel and tourism in America grew by 3.5%, more than twice the rate of growth for the entire economy. And there's more good news. The U.S. has set records for international visits in 4 of the last 5 years. Today, more money is spent on tourism in the U.S. than in any other country around the world. So how do we sustain that growth and create even more American jobs? One important way is to maximize the effectiveness of the Travel Promotion Act, which Congress approved in 2010 with bipartisan support. The Act created the Nonprofit Corporation for Travel Promotion, or CTP, with specific duties intended to increase international travel to the U.S. These duties include providing information to foreign travelers, such as U.S. entry requirements, fees, and required documentation, identifying and correcting misperceptions regarding U.S. entry policies, maximizing economic and diplomatic benefits of travel to the U.S. through advertising, outreach, and trade shows, ensuring that international travel benefits all states, and identifying strategies to promote travel to rural and urban areas equally, and finally, placing a priority on countries whose citizens are most likely to travel to the U.S. The CTP is funded through a transfer of fees collected from international travelers who access the electronic system for travel authorization system for visitors under the Visa Waiver Program. The fee is currently set at $14, of which $4 is dedicated to maintaining the ESTA system, and the remaining $10 is directed to the Treasury to be held for CTP. The Secretary of the Treasury may transfer up to $100 million per year of these funds to the CTP, but first the CTP must raise matching funds through contributions of industry members. The Treasury Secretary's authority to collect these fees will sunset on September 30th of 2015. Should these fees be renewed in the future? Should they be increased? How effective has CTP been in promoting tourism? These are all critically important questions which we'll have an opportunity to ask today. Among those testifying at this hearing is James Evans, Chief Executive Officer for the Corporation for Travel Promotion, known as Brand USA. I'm also anxious to hear the thoughts of our administration witness, the Honorable Nicole Lamb-Hale, who serves as Assistant Secretary for Manufacturing and Services at the International Trade Administration. The Department of Commerce, through ITA, is responsible for strengthening U.S. competitiveness, promoting trade and investment, and enforcing trade laws and agreements. Here's the challenge. If we're going to achieve the administration's tourism goals within the next decade, both ITA and CTP will have to step up their games in the years ahead. While the numbers of the visitors to the U.S. has grown impressively, increasing from 41 million in 2003 to 62.3 million in 2011, how do we get to 100 million visitors by 2021? What could hold back that growth, and is there a plan B? As we found out all too painfully during the recent recession, the tourism industry tends to suffer when times are tough. We witnessed that up close and personal in the greater Palm Springs area when many businesses were forced to close or lay off workers. But we can mute that negative economic impact in the future. But can we, mute that negative economic impact in the future by substantially increasing international travel to the U.S.? As I said earlier, given the importance of tourism to the U.S. economy and given the promise of creating tens of thousands of new American jobs, it's our job to make certain that we have a sound strategy and forward-looking policies in place which will positively promote the U.S. around the world, provide international travelers with a unique experience, and leave them with lasting, treasured memories of their trip to the U.S. After all, there's no better travel promotion in the world than having a friend plug their visit to another friend. And on that note, don't forget that the Palm Springs area is a fabulous place to visit anytime during the year, and the welcome sign is always out. With that, the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Butterfield, the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Commerce, Manufacturing, and Trade, is now recognized for 5 minutes for his opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank you for holding today's hearing on this very important topic of tourism and how we can work together to promote tourism here in our great country. And a special welcome to my friend, the gentlelady from Hawaii. Thank you very much for coming and spending this time with us today. The United States is second only to France in the number of annual international visitors it welcomes each year. With all due respect to that country in Europe we call France, it needs to be our goal to move our country into the top spot, and we are moving in the right direction. In 1996, Congress directed the Department of Commerce to create what would become the Office of Travel and Tourism Industries in the International Trade Administration. The goal of that office is to enhance the international competitiveness of the U.S. travel and tourism industry and increase its exports, thereby creating U.S. employment and economic growth. For the last 6 years, OTTI has conducted extensive research and has offered policy suggestions on ways to increase international travel. I'm pleased to see Nicole Lamb-Hale, the Assistant Secretary for Manufacturing and Services, here today, and I look forward to hearing her testimony. What does tourism mean in real terms? It means jobs and increased tax revenues and cultural enrichment, among many other things. Boosting international tourism will create new jobs and spur economic activity that cannot be outsourced. It takes just 35 new international travelers to support one new U.S. job. Each international visitor to the U.S. will spend about $4,000 while here. Considering that we welcome over 62 million international travelers to the United States last year alone, spending by international travelers can be a boon for local communities and small business around the country. Today, in my home state of North Carolina, the state government is hosting North Carolina Tourism Day, where industry leaders and state government officials and everyday citizens meet with legislators and policymakers to learn ways to make the most of what our state has to offer. And so the great state of California has a lot to offer, and North Carolina on the East Coast does as well. North Carolina visitors spend over $17 billion annually and are responsible for supporting over 200,000 local jobs. I'm particularly thankful that Dr. Pat Long from East Carolina University's Center for Sustainable Tourism is here. I'm interested to hear his views on how adopting sustainable tourism policies can reduce costs to industry, help maximize profits, and drive increases in international tourism. It's clear that every sector of the economy benefits from increases in tourism, and I stand ready to work with my colleagues and you, Madam Chairman, on legislative initiatives that will help promote international tourism and create jobs. I will also note that there is something we can do that doesn't cost a thing. It is something that we do very well in my home state, and it's called just being nice. Greeting people with a smile when they come through the door, being polite, saying thank you and you're welcome. If we can train the airlines and TSA and USCIS to employ the golden rule when interacting with international visitors, we can go a long way in breaking down barriers to international travel. Did you write that? All right. With that said, I would like to thank our witnesses for being here today and yield the remainder of my time. I'll do that later, Ms. Tchaikovsky. Yes, we're going to hold back on that. We'll yield back at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butterfield. In accordance with...
Excuse me, did you
I thought he yielded back.
Well, I was told that if I didn't... Let me reclaim my time if I can. I was told that if I had less than 2 minutes that I would be yielding back. How much time did I have left, if any?
It was a minute 30.
It was a minute 30. All right. Would you like that time, Mr. Waxman? Yeah. Yeah, I was told less than 2 minutes to yield to you.
I'll take it.
All right.
All right.
With unanimous consent, I ask permission to yield.
No objection.
All right.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you.
Thank you. In general, tourism promotion is a bipartisan issue. We appreciate it in Chicago. We are the 7th most significant port of entry for international travelers, 1.2 million visitors starting their U.S. trips there. We're going to discuss an important initiative, the Corporation for Travel Promotion, now called Brand USA, which was a bipartisan creation. But we can't pretend that both parties are committed to creating an environment that is welcoming to visitors. Our witnesses are going to highlight the need for a fast and efficient visa system. I know that there are many countries that we would like as more travelers. I was just in Brazil. They would love that. Poland, important for Chicago. A streamlined customs process at ports of entry, and efficient transportation infrastructure that can handle millions of visitors a year. The majority's budget appropriations bills would not invest in any of these priorities. Instead, they would make severe cuts in them. They're pushing for cuts to the State Department budget, infrastructure spending, airports, and even air traffic control. How are foreign visitors going to get here if there aren't sufficient air traffic controllers on the job to help their planes land safely? The travel and tourism sector is a perfect example how the federal government's contributions can build a solid base on which the private sector can thrive and together create thousands or millions of jobs. But cutting the vital public side of this coin, I believe, is misguided and harmful to our economy. I hope that we can all agree on things that in many more ways will promote tourism in our country, and I yield back to Mr. Butterfield.
Thank you. I reclaim my time and yield back the balance.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes Ms. Blackburn of Tennessee for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We're all talking about what we think makes our area of the country uniquely wonderful, and we do like to promote that. I think what concerns us is what we have seen come from this administration in non-traditional and nonsensical policies. And one of our greatest promoters of U.S. tourism, Steve Wynn, had this to say, and I'm quoting, "This administration is the greatest wet blanket to business and progress and job creation in my lifetime," end quote. And here's an example. Just recently, DOJ levied a new mandate on the hospitality industry requiring each pool and hot tub to come equipped with a pool lift. Each of these new lifts cost upwards of $6,000. This new mandate is leaving many hotel owners with the decision to either pave over their pools, which may make their hotel less competitive, or spend tens of thousands of dollars to comply. Funds which could have been better spent on hiring new employees or competing to host tourists and conventions. Furthermore, the traveling public is facing an avalanche of travel barriers due to ever-rising gas prices and the aggressive overreach of the TSA at our nation's airports. Last year, the U.S. Travel Association asked air travelers if they were likely to take more trips next year by commercial airline after being made aware of the TSA's new screening initiatives. Only 49% said that they were very or somewhat likely to fly more. If we don't want to become the world's leading exporter of tourism, we need to stop shooting ourselves in the foot with steel-plated government policies that leave ourselves less competitive and less secure. It's quite obvious that we need to scale back the federal government's heavy-handed overreach that is negatively impacting tourism in all of our districts. We need to be looking at ways to incentivize tourism and travel, and certainly in Tennessee, we want you to come see the Great Smoky Mountains, the Country Music Hall of Fame, Graceland, Shiloh Battlefield. We want you to come to the Grand Ole Opry and then go to downtown Franklin, Leapers Fork, and be sure and spend plenty of money. So we welcome you, and I yield back.
thank the gentlelady, and the chair recognizes Mr. Waxman for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for holding this hearing. International tourism is a proven engine of economic growth in our country and a significant contributor to our national economic recovery. This shouldn't be a partisan issue, but we've almost had no hearings in the last year and a half where the Republicans have not turned it into a partisan issue. And the comment about the regulations for swimming pools was to comply with the American with Disabilities Act. I think Steve Wynn should care a lot about that, because he is a man who's suffering from disabilities, and he would probably benefit because of his lack of sight to have such a lift in the swimming pools. I don't think hotels are paving over their swimming pools because they have a regulation to protect the disabled. We even want disabled people to come to the United States, and we want to say hello to them and welcome them here and have them spend their money as just as good as anybody else's. According to the Department of Commerce, tourism spending surged 8% last year to over $1 trillion. It supported 7.6 million jobs. This is one of our nation's top exports, one of the few export industries guaranteed to create jobs that won't move offshore. Foreign visitors are putting Americans back to work and giving the world a window into our natural and cultural treasures. And luckily, we have two people here from California that are going to advance our cause, because we're the gateway for tourism and hospitality to the Pacific area. The Chamber of Commerce estimates that every 1% increase in international visitors to Los Angeles infuses local business with a $43 million increase in direct spending and an estimated $88 million increase in economic impact. So the question is, how can we get more people to come? The President, and we only have one at a time, this one laid out a robust goal to attract 100 million international visitors annually within 10 years, a goal that I think both parties ought to support. The National Travel and Tourism Strategy unveiled last week is a blueprint to make it achievable with concerted coordination between government and industry. Some of the opportunities to attract more foreign visitors can be found in the Visa Waiver Program, which enables visitors from eligible countries to tour the United States for up to 90 days without a visa. After South Korea became eligible for this program in 2008, the number of Korean visitors to the United States increased 30%, and estimates indicate that the number could increase by another 55% by 2016. Other solutions will require targeted improvements to speed the resolution of visa backlogs in countries not eligible for the Visa Waiver Program. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about why tourists come to my district. In Beverly Hills, we have Rodeo Drive. In Hollywood, the Grauman Chinese Theater. On the Hollywood Walk of Fame, the beaches of Santa Monica, and all the way down the coast. We have lesser known but wonderful tourism opportunities. One example is the Conejo Valley, where internationally renowned Tour de France teams have been training along the world-class biking trails of Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Centers. We have a lot of wonderful things to see, and there are times during the year when Palm Springs gets a little warm. So while they spend maybe a little less time in Palm Springs, they can come to the rest of California. But go to Palm Springs as well, because we just have so much for people to see in the state of California. And I think that we ought to approach this on a bipartisan way to encourage tourism, support the efforts of the President, who's trying to do the same thing. I welcome our distinguished witness. She certainly has a place with a lot to offer for tourists. I wish I could find time to get back to Hawaii, but I spent all my time in California, so I'm not deprived of wonderful tourist attractions. Yield back the balance of my time.
I thank the gentleman from Beverly Hills, and again, welcome him anytime to Palm Springs. But I do, at this time, we turn our attention to our first panelist, and we do welcome Representative Hirono of Hawaii to our committee, certainly somebody who understands this issue. And to reiterate to Mr. Waxman, all of us are very interested in bolstering tourism and doing what we can actually to help the President be successful in this goal. So welcome, Ms. Verona. We are anxious to hear from you. We will recognize you for 5 minutes at this point. And just to remind members, we do not plan on questioning our colleague. So after she gives us her statement, she will be free to go back to her busy day, and we'll move on to the second panel. So you're recognized for 5 minutes. Excuse me, would you just make sure your microphone is on and pulled towards your...
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You would think I would know this, but I'm usually on the other side. So, mahalo and aloha to all of you for giving me this opportunity to participate. Creating good jobs is a national priority, and one of the strongest job-creating sectors in America is the visitor industry. The travel and tourism industry is critically important, of course, to the state of Hawaii. And I would say that travel and industry is probably the number 1, 2, or 3 economic driver in just about every state in the country, including, of course, Chairwoman Bono Max. And in fact, doing a little bit of research in your state, practically 900,000 people in California have jobs in this industry. Tourism in Hawaii is our biggest economic driver, accounting for 17.4% of the jobs in Hawaii. It also accounts for almost 20% of our economy. That is over 145,000 jobs, $12.6 billion in 2011. Nationally, tourism has been one of our nation's biggest exports for years. In 2011, it supported 7.6 million jobs and generated 3.5% of our GDP. That's $1.2 trillion. The National Travel and Tourism Strategy, released last week, recognizes the industry's importance to our nation's economy. It set a goal, as many of you have already articulated, 100 million international visitors by 2021. I applaud Secretaries Bryson and Salazar and all of the task force members for their work on this plan. And I commend President Obama for recognizing and prioritizing travel and tourism as a way to create jobs. The goals set by the President will take our serious effort. Last year, the U.S. welcomed 62 million visitors from abroad. That was a record number. So increasing that number to 100 million in the next 9 years will be a challenge. It's a challenge that I know we can meet in a bipartisan way. In 2010, Congress passed the Travel Promotion Act, which created the Brand USA, which just recently launched its very first campaign to promote travel to our country. This year, we passed legislation to improve our aviation systems and infrastructure. So we are making progress. I know the administration has worked to tackle visa processing backlogs in places like China. China is a key visitor market, both for Hawaii and the United States, rest of the U.S. Over 54 million Chinese traveled abroad in 2010. Do you know that fewer than 1 million of them came to our country, and Hawaii welcomed some 62,000? In September of 2011, Hawaii hosted the 5th annual China-U.S. Tourism Leadership Summit. At the summit, Mr. Chi-Wei Xiao, who is China's highest-ranking tourism official, said, quote, "We hope that the U.S. can bring more convenient visa procedures, and we exchanged views on this." He went on to say, "The goal in 2015 is for tourist flows between China and the U.S. to reach 5 million, end quote. We are totally missing the boat in this growing China market, but we can do something about it and do it quickly. Congress can act to cut red tape and streamline the visa process for visitors from China and other growing markets. That's why I introduced the Bipartisan Visit USA Act with Representative David Dreyer. Our bill would make common sense changes to our visa processes. These changes would expedite visa processing to increase visitors while preserving U.S. security. I want to emphasize that, while preserving U.S. security. So it will also focus on high-growth markets like Brazil and India, in addition to China. Briefly, some of the bill's key points are, we would want to grant Chinese visitors 5-year rather than the current 1-year multiple entry visas. We would allow for conducting interviews by secure video conferencing rather than requiring the Chinese to travel the great distances to the 5 permanent consulates we have in that country. And we would want to establish mobile satellite consulates in cities of more than 1 million. Increasing or decreasing fees based on seasonal demand in our country. Allow for expedited visa reviewing. These common sense reforms, among others included in the bill, will help to implement our tourism strategy. This bill has a bipartisan companion in the Senate and has been endorsed by a broad range of groups from Unite Here to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce to Americans for Tax Reform, and you are going to hear from the U.S. Travel Association, who will be also testifying today. So boosting our travel and tourism industry will help our economy, create jobs. I'm glad to have bipartisan co-sponsors for our bill, including Representatives Dreyer, as I mentioned, Berkeley, Blumenauer, Farr, Hanabusa, and Halgren. I hope all of you will sign on to this bill and consider moving us forward quickly so that we do not continue to miss the boat, I should say. We're not going to miss the vote, that's coming up soon, to miss the vote on attracting tourists who want to come here, particularly from China. And just to give you the sense of what kind of impact this would have on Hawaii, we get maybe 62,000 visitors from China. With the kind of changes I'm talking about in this bill, it's been estimated we can welcome 300,000 Chinese visitors to Hawaii. They will spend $600 million, creating potential for 6,000 jobs in Hawaii. So I look forward to working with all of you as we go forward in a bipartisan way. Mahalo, aloha.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate your being here, and we will certainly take a very close look at joining you on your bill. I appreciate that. Thank you again, and at this point, rather than asking questions, we will see you later on the floor for the votes, and we'd like to call up Secretary Lamb-Hale to be seated for the second panel. Just take a quick 30-second change. Okay, good morning. On our second panel, we have the Honorable Nicole Lamb-Hale, Assistant Secretary for Manufacturing Services, International Trade Administration at the U.S. Department of Commerce. Good morning, Madam Secretary, and thank you for coming back to be with us again today. You will now be recognized for your 5 minutes, and as you know, the lights will indicate when you need to begin wrapping up at the 1 minute mark. So please turn the microphone on and bring it close to your mouth, and you are now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back. Good morning, Chair Bono-Mack, Ranking Member Butterfield, and the members of this subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today on the National Travel and Tourism Strategy. The Obama administration and the Department of Commerce clearly recognize travel and tourism's importance to the economy. This industry supports job creation, accounting for $1.2 trillion in economic activity and supporting 7.6 million jobs in all states and territories. In 2011, 62 million international visitors came to the United States and spent $153 billion. These expenditures supported over 1 million jobs. The United States is highly competitive in the international travel and tourism marketplace. We lead the world in revenues derived from international travelers. However, the world travel market is changing rapidly. Competition has increased. From 2000 to 2010, the U.S. share of spending by international travelers fell from 17% to 11%, a more than 30% decrease in our share of the global market. Like the United States, other traditional tourism destinations lost share during the same period, while Asian and other emerging destinations dramatically increased their market share. Many of our competitors recognize global travel and tourism growth as an opportunity for increased trade and job creation. Given this new competitive dynamic, the United States must harness the potential of travel and tourism to grow our economy. To ensure we reach this potential, President Obama issued an executive order earlier this year that established a task force on travel and competitiveness. The task force developed recommendations to promote domestic and international travel to and within our country with the goal of increasing the U.S. share of worldwide travel. The task force, consisting of federal agencies whose work impacts this sector, developed the United States National Travel and Tourism Strategy. Industry, congressional members, and other stakeholders provided substantial input. Secretary of Commerce John Bryson and Secretary of the Interior Ken Salazar co-chaired the task force. They submitted the strategy to the President and released it to the industry and the public at a meeting of the Congressional Travel and Tourism Caucus just last week. The goal of the strategy is simple yet bold. Increase American jobs by attracting 100 million international visitors who we estimate will spend $250 billion annually by the end of 2021. To accomplish this, we will promote the United States as never before. This means communicating to the world that we welcome visitors and providing information about the ease of travel to and within the United States. It means coordinating with the marketing campaign of Brand USA, the nonprofit private corporation established by the Travel Promotion Act of 2009, and it means partnering with industry as well as state, local, tribal, and territorial governments to build campaigns around activities and iconic places, from the Sequoia National Forest to the San Antonio Riverwalk to the Outer Banks. While keeping our nation's security as the primary focus, the Departments of State and Homeland Security will streamline visa applications and entry for legitimate travelers into the country. They will do this through improvements in process, technology, staffing, and infrastructure. The U.S. government will continue to make strategic investments in the transportation infrastructure to enable safer and more efficient movement between destinations throughout the country. This means supporting the program to upgrade our national air traffic control system and working to promote improvements to our nation's highways. The administration will strive to provide world-class visitor experiences to inspire repeat visits. The strategy also proposes efforts to help small travel and tourism businesses, including expanding access to capital and helping small businesses gain the confidence to withstand demand volatility. The Tourism Policy Council, the Federal Interagency Council chaired by Secretary Bryson, will coordinate federal policies and programs to implement the strategy. Building on our existing Office of Travel and Tourism Industries, we will create a National Travel and Tourism Office at the Commerce Department to serve as a central driving force within the government and to provide the day-to-day support needed to implement the national strategy. We will also work with the travel and tourism industry to collect and analyze data to support smart decision-making in the public and private sectors. We will also develop metrics to measure our progress and analyze results to improve performance. It is not just government agencies, of course, that promote increased travel and tourism. We are working closely with our private sector partners as well. A key partner is Brand USA, which launched its U.S. Tourism Promotion Program last month. Commerce is committed to working with Brand USA to make its campaign successful. In closing, the implementation of the national strategy and our work with private sector partners will be crucial in realizing travel and tourism's potential to create jobs over the next decade. I look forward to continuing to work with Congress to meet the goals set out for us in the Travel Promotion Act and to ensure that the unique public-private partnership it creates delivers on the full promise of this vital industry as a job creation engine. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today, and I look forward to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. You can clearly see from our opening statements that the members of this subcommittee have great pride in their districts, whether it's Palm Springs or the beautiful North Carolina or the fabulous Chicago, Beverly Hills, Tennessee. There's a lot of great pride, and we're all very, very proud of our districts. It's not too often we get to speak about our national parks in this committee, and I'm happy to say that I represent part of Joshua Tree National Park, and I'm very honored to do that. But one of the questions that I have is, how do the offices within Commerce market U.S. destinations, and do you pick specific attractions or regions? Are there winners and losers?
There are certainly not winners and losers, Madam Chair. We are working very hard under the strategy and under the auspices of the Tourism Policy Council to ensure that the spirit of the Travel Promotion Act, which focuses on lifting all the boats, all of our states' opportunities in travel and tourism. So we do use data and research to figure out the best places to promote the United States. We're working very closely with Brand USA and in their strategy to do so. And we're making sure that we market and promote rural destinations as well as our urban centers. The idea is to promote the entire United States and to not choose for one state over another.
Thank you. You have said that we need to partner with state and local governments to build these campaigns around activities and iconic places. Who will choose in which projects to invest? What criteria should be used? For example, half of my district, I was asking me the question the other day when I was out there about how do we promote tourism, but they have no infrastructure yet. in place at all? Are they going to be disadvantaged compared to the other half of my district, which is very focused and has a great infrastructure in place currently to promote tourism? How will you be picking and choosing there?
Well, we won't be picking and choosing. What we will be doing is working very hard with all the states that are interested in helping to develop strategies to promote their particular destinations. We will be working very closely with Brand USA in the effort to ensure that we are targeting the right foreign markets to bring visitors, international visitors into the country, and to really build upon the fact that we have great urban centers, but of course within a range, a very short range of distance, there are rural destinations that are very important and that can be meaningful for the memories that you talked about. And so I think that as we work together through the interagency process and with our state and local partners and the private sector, we'll be able to lift all the boats. There won't be a picking of winners and losers as it relates to our states.
Thank you. You also testified that the administration will focus on fostering a skilled hospitality industry. Can you describe the administration's vision on this point, and where is the industry currently deficient?
Well, I wouldn't say that the industry is deficient. I think that there are opportunities for us to work together with the private sector to do the kinds of things that will create a world-class customer service and visitor experience for the country. So that includes helping to train small businesses, which comprise the largest percentage of our travel and tourism businesses in the U.S., on strategies and tactics to help to improve the visitor experience. I think as we partner with our private sector partners and with our Travel and Tourism Advisory Board, for instance, we can put together training programs to help small businesses to be successful in welcoming our visitors. We can certainly focus, and I know that DHS has done this, on making sure that the people that are on the front line at our ports of entry are trained to be, as Congressman Butterfield said, to say thank you and you're welcome, and to be welcoming to travelers. So I think that, again, as we pull together in the interagency and we work with our private partners, we can ensure that the customer experience and the visitor experience within the U.S. is the best that it can be so that we can be competitive.
Thank you. And is the Commerce Department concerned solely with the total number of international visitors, or does it also have goals for boosting tourism at the state level within the
focused on international visitation and working with Brand USA in that regard, but as part of the Tourism Policy Council, which includes the Departments of Interior and other departments that touch this industry, we're really looking at ensuring that when U.S. citizens travel, that they consider staying home and looking at all that the U.S. has to offer.
Thank you very much. I yield back my final 10 seconds and recognize Mr. Butterfield for 5 minutes for questioning.
Let me thank the chairman. The data shows that that 5 U.S. states, I believe it is, New York, Florida, California, Nevada, and Hawaii, all together account for some 93% of all overseas visitor arrivals, and that's good. But I'm concerned that the remaining states, the territories, and the District of Columbia combined receive such a very small portion of the total. Clearly, the authors of the Travel Promotion Act felt the same way, as the statute explicitly directs Corporation for Travel Promotion to, quote, ensure that international travel benefits all states and the District of Columbia, and to identify opportunities and strategies to promote tourism to rural and urban areas equally, including the areas not traditionally visited by international travelers, end of quote. One of your main jobs as the primary department overseeing this act is to carry out that duty. How do we help those states that do not attract large numbers of international visitors? Do you believe a unified national marketing strategy like Brand USA, and you made reference to that, will give a particular boost to these states, and if so, why?
Thank you for your question. The Travel Promotion Act, as you did state, does ensure that as we look at promoting the United States, that we not just promote the urban areas, but we also look at promoting rural America. We are working very closely with Brand USA and with our private sector partners to ensure that that happens. We are really if you look at our strategy, we're very focused within existing resources on how we can make sure that as we promote the United States, these other opportunities to explore rural America and some of our smaller states are taken into account.
But is it true that 93% of international travelers go to 5 states?
You know, I don't have that information. I can check on that and get back to you. But I would say that it's as we implement the Travel Promotion Act and as we implement the strategy working with our private sector partners, we are very cognizant of the beautiful and iconic destinations that exist around our country. And so our goal is not just to promote, you know, our urban centers, but to look at other opportunities to ensure that when visitors come, they can take into account and take into consideration all of the opportunities that the U.S. provides for travel and tourism.
Are regional partnerships more important for these states that are relatively off the beaten path to international visitors?
I think that regional partnerships are very important, and we are working, if you look at our strategy, we're working at making sure that we include rural America in those discussions and in that approach.
All right, they didn't cut on my clock, so I'm not going to abuse my time. That's okay. All right. That's all right. I'm going to ask one last question, and then I'll be done. In the year 2000, the U.S. share of international arrivals was 7.5% of the world's total. Mm-hmm. By 2011, the U.S. share was down to 6.6%. Trade groups, executive departments, and congressional committees have cited this decline as a motivating factor for a renewed federal emphasis on international travel promotion. Ms. Lamb-Hale, one out of OTTI's main jobs, one of the main jobs, is to provide statistical support on travel and tourism to the department and to the various industries that make up travel and tourism. As we seek to achieve the National Travel and Tourism Strategy's goal of $100 million and $250 billion in international traveler spending by 2021, how do you intend to measure this progress?
Well, we are certainly working very closely with the private sector to do that. We understand the importance of data and research to the travel and tourism industry, and we're looking for creative ways through public-private partnerships to close any data gaps that there are so that we can make sure that we use public and private resources appropriately in the promotion of the U.S.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Butterfield. The chair recognizes Mr. Olson for 5 minutes.
I thank the chair, and thank you, Secretary Lamb-Hale, for coming today. I greatly appreciate your time and not wasting an opportunity to talk about the Lone Star State, and very proudly talk about the Lone Star State. We have a great slogan in Texas about our tourism industry. Texas, it's like a whole other country.
Ah.
And we've got, I mean, that comes from our governor's office. Okay. We've got things to be proud of. Great diversity. We've got the piney woods of East Texas. Lots of hiking, lots of fishing up there. We've got the Central Texas prairies and the lakes, the water sports that was talked about, getting all out there, doing some tubing down the rivers. We've got the hill country, getting more tubing down there, the Riverwalk in San Antonio, which I think you may have mentioned in your testimony. The Big Bend area, it's got mountains in Texas. Yep, we got one that's 8,751 feet, Mount Guadalupe. And we've got the Marfa Lights out there, which are, some people think they're UFOs, other people don't think they're UFOs, but go out and see them by yourself. We've got the Panhandle Plains, limitless skies, and the best steaks like Prini Steakhouse there in Buffalo Gap, Texas. And finally, we've got where I live, the Gulf Coast of Texas, which stretches from the border with Mexico to the border with Louisiana. Beautiful beaches, lots of great fishing, and the home of the Johnson Space Center. And so we have half the southern border with Mexico. And what I'm concerned about is Latin America is the fastest growing market for our economy, at least in Texas. We've got a robust cruise ship operation out of Galveston, Texas. In fact, I went on that cruise with my family Christmas before last, and went down to Central America, the Caribbean, and northern part of South America. Mm-hmm. And I can assure you that the people on that cruise, there were a lot. We had those blue passports, our passports, but many people on the cruise ship had different color passports. So they were international visitors coming to Galveston, Texas, to get on our cruise ships to go down to Latin America. And we've got 3 major international airports: San Antonio Airport, my colleague Mr. Gonzalez, that's his home airport; Dallas-Fort Worth. And we've got Bush Intercontinental, where I live, and maybe a 4th one. We've got a little debate going on right now in Houston about Hobby Airport, getting some international travel access down to Mexico and the northern part, Central America, and the northern part of South America. And so what I'm concerned about is, obviously, we just have a tremendous opportunity in Texas to grow. I mean, it's just the numbers for you. For example, the GDP of the Texas travel industry was $23.4 billion in 2010. That's only lower than the oil and gas segment and on par with agriculture. That's high cotton in Texas. If you're competing with the oil and gas industry and the agriculture industry, the cattle ranching industry, you've got something going on there, $23.4 billion. And what I'm concerned about is that from 2000 to 2010, U.S. share of spending by international travelers fell from 17% to 11%, more than 30% decrease in our share of the global market. The good news is we had a record $153 billion of U.S. travel and international tourism, but I'm concerned about the decline there. In your testimony, you say that the decreased share of international travelers is a result of more competition. And I'm concerned about 9/11 and how that's changed things, not just for the airline industry. We tend to focus on that, but also, as I mentioned, we've got people coming across their cars from Mexico into my home state that want to be tourists there, that they're having to go through some changes down there on the border. We've got the cruise ships. They have to go through different procedures to get aboard the ship that most we do, and that's all good. But I'm just concerned. Was the industry seeing a decrease before the 9/11 terrorist attacks? I mean, like, what was the numbers between 2000 and 2001?
I would have to get back to you on that. I don't have those numbers handy, but I can tell you that I can give you some sense of the competition and why it is that as a result of that we have implemented and we are implementing the strategy. After 9/11, of course, because of security concerns, rightly so, we had to do some things to make sure that our public, the American public, was secure, and we are now doing that and promoting the United States. I think that the competition, the increased competition, is that there are other areas of the world to see. There's a growing middle class and emerging economies, and they have a lot of choices that they can make. So I think that the fact that we are coming together as a government and for the first time really actively promoting the U.S., I think that we will gain the competitive edge that we all want to create jobs.
Yeah, we need to do that because I applaud the idea of welcoming 100 million visitors, international visitors to our states. That's very important. But right now, our states have one hand tied behind their back because they are out there competing against other countries. I mean, my home state of Texas, we've got this advertisement program. I know we go over to other states. I've seen back home, I see my colleagues from Michigan here. You guys are doing a good job.
And I'm from Michigan, too, pure Michigan.
There you go. I see those ads on my TV. Come to Michigan.
Right.
Beautiful scenery, but we need help. I mean,
right.
How many jobs do you think can be impacted if we get these 100 million international tourists coming here? How many jobs do we have right here in the United States? Any idea?
Well, I can tell you what the statistics were for 2011, and we can do some math, get a calculator out, and maybe extrapolate from that. But I can tell you that there were 1.1 million total jobs supported by international travelers in 2011.
Okay, there we go.
So if we can do the math, I went to law school for a reason, so I don't know that I can do it in my head right now. But there is a formula. I mean, we have a formula. That's how we derived the goal. There is a direct correlation between job creation and the exports that we receive through travel and tourism by international visitors. So I think that if we look at what happened in 2011, if the federal government comes together with the private sector and we really make the push that this strategy suggests, I think that we're going to see an enormous impact on job creation in the country.
Thank you, and I'm way over my time. Just again, Texas, it's like a whole other country. I yield back.
Senator Bill.
I hesitate to recognize the next Texan for a Texas filibuster, but the gentleman from Texas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's just that we have so much to brag about,
We do.
and rightfully so. But quickly, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Let me ask you, I want to turn to the international visitor for a lot of reasons. You've told me that you want to promote, obviously, what's going on domestically, and I understand that. And with the recession, we probably have more people in the United States staying within the United States and visiting San Antonio and other spots as opposed to those particularly 5 states that the ranking member had pointed out. Those figures come from the census. That's what I was checking a minute ago with my staff. And in essence, basically stated that there were, I think, 5 states. According to the U.S. Department of Commerce, 5 states, New York, Florida, California, Nevada, and Hawaii, received 93.8% of visitors. Mm-hmm. That excludes visitors from Canada and Mexico. So there are many variables that come into play as to whether they're going to go to any of the other vacation spots. Something that my colleague from Texas pointed out is going to be the availability of just air transportation, major airports. And if you're going to try to get people going from New York or whatever to other locales, maybe once they get here or whatever, you still need all sorts of direct routes to some of those cities like San Antonio, and I'm sure some of my colleagues know exactly what I'm talking about. And where I'm going with this is that my understanding is that the administration, one of its goals is to coordinate the efforts across agencies and departments to accommodate all of those considerations so that we're working at truly would be the optimum. You've already heard that we have security concerns. We have, of course, just the accommodation of air routes and such. All of that. What are we doing in order to get all the agencies and departments on the same page to accommodate and encourage international visitors?
Well, what we are doing is first of all, developing the strategy. We developed the strategy that was an interagency process. It was a task force led by the Secretaries of Commerce and Interior, and all of these agencies that have equities in this space have pulled together to put together this strategy, and they're beginning to implement that strategy. And that's something that we really haven't done as well before. I mean, we do have the Tourism Policy Council that has been in place. We are rejuvenating that. We're making sure that senior level officials participate very actively to ensure that there's a coordination on the federal level through the creation of the National Travel and Tourism Office at the Commerce Department that I spoke about. That will really create a central focus and really ensure that the coordination of the strategy, the implementation of the strategy takes place. And, and I wanted to mention, too, the issue of the 5 states. We have not promoted the United States like we're planning to do, like we're doing now with Brand USA. I mean, the people who are going to those states are going to those states without the additional push from Brand USA and from the coordination of the federal agencies to really market the United States as a whole. And I think as we do that, all states will be able to, benefit from international visitors coming because we're going to go tell the story. We haven't told the story effectively. Brand USA's marketing campaign is fabulous, and it really focuses on all that the country has to offer. And I think that particularly working together with the Department of Interior, you'll really see a boost in our promotion activities that will ensure that we have the increase in international visitors that we all want to create jobs.
And I think that's part of the formula. The other thing is I'm just asking to take very seriously that one provision there and goal of coordinating between departments and agencies. There's some things you'll be able to do that are beyond your control. The strength of the American dollar compared to another currency and such, making the United States an attractive place to come, security and such. But there's still a lot to be done. Yes. And I have about a minute left, and quickly I want to make a distinction. When I read this, I thought it was just absolutely amazing. I don't know if you are making distinction, and we have people from the tourism industry, the distinction between someone that comes to truly visit or someone that comes here, and of course they're going to eat at our restaurants, stay in our hotels, but they're here to purchase things. Now, that to me is a really high-value tourist. So I'm going to read you something from the Orange County Register of March 12, 2012. In fact, Brazilians are spending so much that flights with Brazil's top airline, TAM, originating in the United States, have had to carry more fuel to accommodate the dramatically overweight baggage. New York. And I'm sure, we can talk about Miami and other places. Is there any distinction in making that kind of tourist, I call them really a customer of the United States, truly export in many ways, are you making any distinction to accommodate that kind of commerce with visitors to the United States?
Well, I think that there's no surprise that Brazil is among the top destinations that we're marketing to for the United States because of the fact that, statistics show that they do spend quite a bit of money. And then it's interesting as we look at the export opportunity, it's paying for the plane ticket, it's coming in and buying, soda and clothing, et cetera. And so I think as we approach this strategically and we use resources, both public and private, in the most efficient efficient way possible, we will be looking at areas that make the most sense to market to initially. I know that Brand USA, and I'm sure that Jim Evans will tell you this, has a plan, a strategy, a rollout, and what you'll see is that countries where we have visitors who are those high-value visitors that you described are going to be at the top of the list.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I yield back. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chair recognizes Mr. Pompeo for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Unlike the other members today, I'm not going to shamelessly promote Kansas. I don't need to. If you've ever seen a Kansas sunset, if you've ever had a chance, if you've ever had a chance to go hunt and fish in western Kansas, or you've had a chance to go visit Kansas City and the wonderful amenities there, you don't need a member of Congress to sell you on it. You may not need federal trade promotion either, and that's really I want to follow up on what Mr. Gonzalez said. Tell me about the metrics. There's so many dynamics, right? Fuel price, the dollar value. You talked about developing metrics. What are the metrics against which you'll measure the resources that are being expended on this project?
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly those are in development. We are working very hard to ensure that our research and our data support what we're doing. The monies that are being spent, I know that Brand USA has been working very closely with us to ensure that we can measure our success. We are very focused on public-private partnerships to help us to develop the metrics and to be able to measure our success. And so that's something that under the strategy we are developing. It's underway. There are traditional metrics in terms of, as Mr. Gonzalez mentioned, spending patterns, and can you make a direct correlation between an advertising campaign in Japan and how much is spent by Japanese visitors in the U.S. Those are things that we have to work through. I don't think that we have the formula down pat now, but it's a critical part of the strategy to conduct research and measure our results. And so that's something that the Tourism Policy Council will be working very closely on with our Travel and Tourism Advisory Board and with Brand USA to make sure that we can report to you successes in this regard.
Great. I appreciate that. I think it is difficult. That's why I ask. I think it's hard to segregate out what's really driving it. And I appreciate, too, that we've got lots of private money going to this, the folks who have an enormous self-interest in making this successful for their businesses and for their employees, for job creation in America. I appreciate the way that this program has been developed. I just really, one last comment, and then I'll yield back my time. I listen, too, to the groups of different folks that are involved in this, and whenever I hear interagency working group, I become frightened. Because I often think that often means duplicative programs, confusion, incoherent policy objectives, overlap and waste. And so I would just, we'll keep following on this committee. I would urge you to do everything you can to make sure that we're not committing the same problems here, or having the same problems here that we have in so many other places in the federal government today. So thank you very much for coming and joining us this morning. I yield back.
Thank you. I thank the gentleman, and the chair recognizes Mr. Harper for 5 minutes.
Thank you for being here with us today, and we certainly hope that you'll come visit us in Mississippi, where the food is always better. We can fry anything. Just so you know. It's a great place. But we have many wonderful places to visit. We have the beautiful Natchez Trace Parkway that runs from Nashville, Tennessee, down to Natchez, Mississippi on the Mississippi River. Lots of great history there. We also have the Dixie National Rodeo. That's the largest rodeo east of the Mississippi River. And surprising to some is the International Ballet Competition is only held in one place in the United States, and that's in Jackson, Mississippi, every 4 years, a 2-week Olympic-style event that is visitors from all over the world. And so we hope you'll take a chance to come visit us sometime. And there's great things there. The Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians, their ad campaign is Vegas with sweet tea. So many wonderful things there. And we appreciate what you do. And we know this, that tourism is important to every state. And it is affected in great ways, particularly on group travel, by gas prices at the pump. The high prices are definitely have a big impact on planning those trips, and from bus tours to other groups that come in. So we certainly hope that the administration will perhaps reconsider its position on Keystone XL pipeline and look at ways that we can affect that price at the pump directly, realizing that when gas was $1.84 a gallon average, it's a lot easier to get folks on board and to make trips. So that's a big impact. But what I want to do is ask you a couple of questions and understanding how did the administration set goals for the strategy that you've discussed. And is the primary goal to increase the number of international visitors to 100 million by 2012?
It's by 2021.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
2021. If I could read, I could figure that out.
Okay.
100 million is a nice goal, but how was that figure arrived at? That's very, very ambitious goal, a good goal.
Well, it is ambitious, and we really want a stretch goal. We don't want to set forth a goal that, is too easy to reach, because we want to work together and really push to ensure that the job creation that we believe can occur as a result of this industry is as robust as possible. The Office of Travel and Tourism Industries in the Department of Commerce does an annual forecast of international travel. And that forecast shows that there's an increase of 4.2% per year through 2016, just based upon factors that we look at in deriving that number. We believe that if we pull together the way that we plan to do under this strategy and with the help of the private sector, we can push that to 5% per year.
Okay.
And so once you get that number, we get to 100 million visitors. The math on the amount of money that's spent is just based upon historic spending patterns per visitor.
Gotcha.
And so even me as a lawyer can figure out how to do the math on that one.
Well,
but it's
lawyers are people too.
We are people too. We are.
So,
but certainly that was the baseline. It was based upon the survey that we do. And what we did was we really tried to push it so that based upon all the efforts that we're making.
Well, how do you plan to coordinate your activities with Brand USA to make sure there's no duplication or that you're working together? And what do you see as the key contribution of the department?
Okay. Well, we will not duplicate the efforts of Brand USA. Brand USA is a private sector entity. They will be putting together their plans and working very closely with their private sector partners to ensure that all of the expertise that's available in industry can be brought to bear to promote the United States. The government will be focused on uniquely governmental items, creating the environment for travel and tourism businesses to thrive, ensuring that our borders, while protecting them, are welcoming to visitors, ensuring that the playing field is leveled in international fora as it relates to, ensuring that any restrictions on trade and travel and tourism are eliminated. Only uniquely governmental functions will the U.S. government focus on.
Thank you for your time today. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Mr. Guthrie, you recognize for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and I will promote Kentucky as we move forward. We had a pretty famous event just a couple of Saturdays ago. But first of all, on the visa, you got into a couple of things. Want to know, Brazil has a reciprocal agreement, so if whatever a Brazilian citizen is required to come here, it also requires to go there. And I had some friends that got caught up in that, so they had to fly to Washington, D.C. to go through the Brazilian embassy so they could get their visa to go to Brazil. And I'm thinking if we got Brazilians living outside of Rio and Sao Paulo and Brasilia, it's a big country. They're going to have to, wanted to come here to go to Disney World, they're going to have to fly to one of those. What inconvenience it is. So it kind of put it into perspective. And I want to say this is that, how's that going? Because I know that it has to be, we have to protect ourselves from people coming in, one that want to do us harm, but one that want to come in illegally and stay. And I give an example. I have a young lady or a friend, or actually almost like a sister, who came to study at Western Kentucky University from Mexico as a graduate student and live with my parents. And so she goes home, marries, has kids, and wants to bring them to Disney World. And her husband, I've been to the business. Matter of fact, her biggest complaint, I know this on TV, she'll probably hear it, is that he will never leave his business unless they go on vacation because he's always there working. And I've been there and seen it, and that's his second to her is love. And they couldn't get a visa to come in, and for some reason in the Mexico City, and they have to go through a lot of cases, so it's not a complaint to them, but this seemed to me to be a clear case of somebody who will come to the United States, take vacation, and go back. and it just seemed very difficult to get that visa. Matter of fact, they went to Spain instead because they couldn't come here. And so this is the kind of business they could afford to go to Spain. That's the thing. And so where is that in the process? We have to protect ourselves, but we also, you'll hear it from Disney folks in town here that it's difficult to get people to travel back and forth. And then also when you show up, I'm so glad when I land here, I've got the U.S. citizen line at the airport, because not only do you get a visa, I haven't flown internationally in a while, but last time I came in, it would be like appeared to be hours of waits to get in, whereas we had the U.S. citizen line or permanent resident line to go through. So those things about just the difficulty of getting a visa to come here and the difficulty of getting here once you get here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly need to defer to my colleagues at the Department of State and Homeland Security on these topics, but I can tell you that the State Department is working very hard to streamline visa processing. They understand the issues around travel to our consulates around the world and how that may create some inconveniences. They're working hard to reduce wait times for qualified visitors. So they're aware of the issue, and they've made a lot of progress, and I'm sure they would love to share that with you. We can get you some information on that. With respect to DHS, they recognize that we need to do better at our ports of entry. They have the Model Ports program that they've been working, and they've developed through that program best practices that they are implementing across the country while still maintaining our security. I think there's a lot that they are doing to improve the infrastructure and the operations at our border crossings, and I think that you'll begin to see a difference there. We've got a lot to do, and we have to protect national security. That's a very important part of what they do, but they do recognize that there's some improvements that can be made.
Oh, I absolutely think there should be no sacrifice to immigration policy or national security to streamline the process, but I could see if you come here once and you go, wow, it's easier to go somewhere else. And that's what I've heard. And with this, a couple of experiences. Of course, they're anecdotal, but there are experiences been there. One thing there was a guy that I met through connection here from South Africa that came to Kentucky a couple weeks ago. And he said, well, I never would have come here. And he did the Bourbon Trail. We have calcium in our ground, so the grass is a natural supplement for strong bones, so our horses are stronger and better. Also, it's a pure filter for water running through limestone. This is limestone, so it filters and iron that falls out. So if you put it and heat it up and put corn in it, it does well. And the other thing is it also creates caves because limestone washes out. So my district's Mammoth Cave. But so we got to do those experiences and says, wow, I never would have gotten out of D.C., New York, California had I not had an opportunity to come here, made that connection that we had. What kind of strategy? I know that, quite frankly, there are a lot of places I haven't visited because I've gone to New York, Washington, California with the same way, and I like wanting to go to other places. What kind of things are you working on to let's get them out of the great cities? I love them, but how do we get them in the heartland?
Well, I think that really with the help of Brand USA, we will be marketing the entire United States. I think that people are going to those cities that you mentioned because they've heard of them, right? We haven't really until now, through the strategy and with the partnership of Brand USA, really marketed the country. And I think as we do that and we focus both on rural and urban areas, we will begin to see a difference there. I think that we really, through the efforts, the combined efforts of our public-private partnership, we will be able to expose international visitors to all that the country has to offer.
One of the world's great travelers, Queen Elizabeth II, loves coming to Kentucky, so that's my last promotion of our great Commonwealth. Thank you.
I thank the gentleman, and I want to thank you again, Secretary Lamb-Hale, for joining us today for this important discussion on promoting tourism in America. It's always great to see you and to have you before our committee. I really look forward to working with you to make this a huge success for all of us. So thank you very much for your time, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you. At this point, we'll take a 30-second recess as we seat our third panel. If those third panelists could please come to the table. All right, we are ready to resume today's hearing with our third panel. Again, each of our witnesses has prepared an opening statement, and that full statement will be placed into the record. You'll each be given 5 minutes to summarize the statement in your remarks. Joining us on our panel are James Evans, Chief Executive Officer of the Corporation for Travel Promotion, also known as Brand USA. Welcome. We have Jeff Freeman, Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President of U.S. Travel Association. We have Debbie Marriott Harrison, Senior Vice President for Government Affairs at Marriott International. Welcome. Scott White, a special welcome to one of my constituents. He is President and Chief Executive Officer for the Greater Palm Springs Convention and Visitors Bureau. Welcome. And Patrick T. Long, Dr. Patrick T. Long, Director for the Center for Sustainable Tourism, Division of Research and Graduate Studies at East Carolina University. Welcome to each of you. You will be given the 5 minutes to help you keep track of time. Please try to keep an eye on the light. When the yellow light illuminates, you have 1 minute to begin wrapping up your remarks. Please make sure you bring the microphone close to your mouth and turn it on. It's not just for us, but it's for the stenographer and anybody else who might be listening or watching. So with this, we're going to begin. Mr. Evans, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Ranking Member Butterfield, and members of the committee for inviting me here today to discuss the ways in which Brand USA will help create jobs by increasing the number of overseas visitors to the United States. Brand USA was established by the Travel Promotion Act in 2010 to spearhead the nation's first global marketing effort to promote America as a premier travel destination and communicate U.S. entry and exit policies. Brand USA does not require a single penny of taxpayer money to operate. Rather, the organization is funded through a combination of private sector contributions and fees paid by international travelers from 36 visa waiver countries. Congress created this private-public partnerships knowing that the U.S. had fallen behind in global competition for overseas travelers. During the last decade, the United's share of overseas arrivals stayed flat even as the global travel market grew by more than 60 million people annually. And what did this mean to our economy? According to the U.S. Travel Association, had the U.S. kept pace with travel growth, we would have welcomed 78 million more visitors and generated $606 billion in spending. That's enough to support more than 467,000 jobs, American jobs, annually. These overseas travelers are the most lucrative for the U.S. economy. On average, they spend $4,300 when they visit the United States, and that doesn't include business deals done when travelers come to the United States to buy manufactured goods. And every 33 overseas travelers supports one U.S. job. The challenge to recapturing our share is even greater as the global travel market has become increasingly competitive over the years. Until now, the United States was the only industrialized country that did not actively market itself to promote international visitation. A 2011 McKinsey Global Institute report estimates that the tourism sector could add 2.1 to 3.3 million jobs this decade. In order to reach that higher number, however, the report says that we need to increase the number of overseas visitors to our shores. Brand USA is committed to doing its part to reach the goal by developing a global marketing campaign on behalf of the United States with a strategy designed to promote all facets of our great nation. This month, we launched our campaign in 3 markets, in the United Kingdom, in Canada, and Japan. Our decision to target these markets first was based entirely on where we believe, through research, our advertising campaign will achieve the greatest possible return on investment. The campaign reflects insights gained from surveying potential visitors to the United States. And what we found wasn't all that surprising, but was sometimes difficult to hear. Some felt we haven't been a very welcoming nation in the past recent years. Others felt that there were newer, more exotic markets they were interested in visiting. And others felt they had seen all they needed to see of the United States. This research fed into our campaign message, inviting travelers worldwide to discover this land like never before. We're using television, digital advertising, signage, print ads, and a robust social media strategy to reach our potential visitors. And our website, discoveramerica.com, features destinations large and small, iconic and less known, from all regions, both urban and rural. We're also working with the Departments of State, Homeland Security, Commerce, and Interior to better communicate our nation's evolving security rules to address misperceptions and create a more welcoming environment to visitors. Once the program is fully activated, we will have a better idea of what to expect from a return on investment perspective, but our goal in this inaugural year is to have a 3-to-1 return on our marketing spend, and eventually in 3 to 4 years to achieve a 20-to-1 spend. I thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning to testify. We greatly appreciate the support of this committee as well as other federal partners in the executive branch. We look forward to working with you to ensure that our success leads to the creation of much-needed American jobs. I thank you for your time. I look forward to answering any questions you may have. And Madam Chair, I have a 2-minute video at some point in time if you'd like to take a peek at it if you have time.
Go ahead. We're prepared when you are.
Wonderful.
I heard you calling from the start. A river runs through both our hearts. 1,000 shades of something new. I cannot wait to play for you. So play your songs and make them real. There's a place for all we feel, and it's closer than it seems. Come and find your land of dreams. Land of dreams, land of dreams. Come and find your land of dreams. And it's closer than it seems. Come and find your land of dreams. The world is smaller in our eyes. The city streets and moonlit skies. The shining waves and evergreens. I will give you everything. You can hear the bells and strings. Just wait until you make them ring. And it's closer than it seems. Come and find your land of dreams. Land of dreams, land of dreams. Come and find your land of dreams. And it's closer than it seems. Come and find your land of dreams. Land of dreams, land of dreams. Come and find your land of dreams. And it's closer than it seems. Come and find your land of dreams. Land of dreams, land of dreams. Come and find your land of dreams. And it's closer than it seems. Come and find your land of dreams.
Thank you. Is that on your website?
It is on our website. Now that, again, as a reminder, is not an ad. Obviously, it's
Right.
too long, but it's a promotional piece we use. But all the content in every ad we have comes from that video.
Well, I thank you. It's well done. And I think we will all be singing Land of Dreams all day long.
Was that a 59 Cadillac that I saw in that?
It was a Cadillac, yeah.
59.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not mine, I promise.
All right. And Mr. Freeman, you're tough act to follow, but you're recognized for 5 minutes.
You can't watch that video and not get excited about the new face that America is putting out there and the invitation that we're sending to travelers around the world. Thank you so much for hosting today's hearing. We greatly appreciate as you talk about your various destinations and all the opportunities that are there, your unique understanding that it's not just fun, it's also big business. It's an opportunity to drive your local economies, and that's why the travel industry wishes to partner with you to help create good American jobs, the good American jobs that we're all seeking right now to turn this economy around. The travel industry supported 14 million American jobs last year. But as Jim said, McKinsey estimates this industry could add an additional 3 million jobs over the next decade. To do that, we have to work together to remove barriers to travel. And we're excited to work with you to do that on both the international front as well as the domestic front. And if you don't mind, I'd like to walk through both of those sides and suggest some of the things that we need to address in order to welcome more travelers to our shores and encourage people to travel within the country. On the international front, travel is our #1 export, generating $153 billion last year alone in spending. This is an element of our industry that we absolutely must promote. To do that, we obviously need a secure and efficient visa system. Our entry process must be welcoming, and our promotion must correct a global misperception that America is not as welcome as it might have been before. We see this as 3 links in the travel chain, all of which must work together, none of which being more important than the other. Let's begin with the visa process. Visa wait times for some time over the past decade have been a great barrier to travel to the United States, often exceeding in some destinations around the world more than 100 days just to receive an interview. We congratulate the State Department on making great strides in recent months and reducing those wait times in Brazil, in China, and elsewhere around the world. The question and the challenge for all of us right now is how we make sure that these changes, these improvements, can be sustained over time. We have several recommendations that we look forward to working with you to ensure that we can maintain these visa successes. Number 1, we encourage you to codify a 10-day visa wait time as a standard around the world. 2, we need to direct the State Department to tie visa personnel staffing levels to meet this standard. Number 3, direct the State Department to pilot the use of secure video conferencing technology in large countries like Brazil and China where people don't have access to consulates. And finally, we need to look for opportunities to expand the visa waiver program, which is included in bipartisan legislation that exists both here in the House and in the Senate. The second area that we have to address is obviously the entry experience. The entry process right now suffers from too few agents to meet the considerable demand that we have to come here. Several things that could help us address this issue include establishing a passenger wait time standard of no more than 20 minutes, extending the reach of current staffing resources, and expanding the use of global entry, and finally, setting metrics to measure the customer service performance of CBP officers at our airports. The final thing, as Jim is focused on the international front, is effective promotion. This committee led the way for TPA's passage. TPA's passage will drive billions in new spending and support tens of thousands of jobs in our country. We need your help in protecting and promoting the Travel Promotion Act as we move forward, and we will obviously have an opportunity at the end of its authorization to determine its effectiveness over that period of time. Switching over to the domestic side, we also have opportunities there. We certainly have opportunities to improve our air travel experience, where many travelers today are avoiding travel because of the hassles associated with that experience. We encourage you to take a hard look at TSA, which was mentioned earlier, and necessary reforms that need to take place there. We also need to look, though, at another potential barrier, and that is language or policy from Washington that could discourage travel. The recent GSA scandal, where individuals acting inappropriately sullied the hardworking men and women of our industry, causes our industry great concern, as it does you as well. OMB recently issued guidance to establish greater oversight and reporting. The travel industry supports these efforts from OMB. But OMB also suggested an arbitrary 30% cut in travel that neither we or Congress should support. Travel should be based on its merits, not on arbitrary mathematics. We welcome the opportunity to work with Congress and the administration to ensure that legitimate federal conferences are not unnecessarily canceled and that responsible federal travel can still take place. We look forward to being your partner in creating American jobs and encouraging travel to and within this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Ms. Harrison, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Good morning, Chairman Bono Mack, Ranking Member Butterfield, and members of the subcommittee. I am Debbie Marriott Harrison, Senior Vice President for Government Affairs for Marriott International, and I'm happy to be here today. I'm proud to be able to report largely positive news from Marriott and the travel industry on this subject. I initially want to second the recommendations of my colleagues and friends from the U.S. Travel Association and Brand USA that are here with me on the panel today, and thank them for being here. Marriott fully supports the work of these organizations. My company is celebrating its 85th anniversary this year. Marriott has humble roots that run deep here in Washington, D.C. In 1927, my grandparents opened a 9-stool root beer stand on 14th Street after moving to Washington from Utah. 30 years later, they opened their first hotel near Reagan National Airport. My father stepped down in April as the CEO after 60 years of service. He oversaw Marriott's evolution into one of the world's leading hospitality companies. We now have over 3,700 hotels worldwide with 18 brands in 73 different countries. Marriott is proud to be expanding and doing its part to put Americans back to work. We will have 330,000 associates around the globe by the end of this year, with 212,000 of those positions here in the United States. I'm happy to report that we expect to hire some 50,000 people this year in this country. Many of those jobs will come from new hotel construction. For every 5 hotel rooms that we add to our system, we create roughly 3 jobs. One of Marriott's core values is to take care of our people and cross-train and promote from within. We offer opportunities to a broad swath of U.S. workers, particularly women, minorities, and immigrants, and provide meaningful career paths with incredible upward mobility. Over half of our general managers rose from the hourly ranks, and they have worked for us for an average of 24 years. Congress can help us create additional quality jobs by promoting the growth of travel and tourism. In 2011, we are pleased to see our business rebound, but there is still a lot more work to be done. We are trying to capitalize on the growth of middle classes in emerging markets like Brazil, India, and China. Marriott is ready to offer a warm welcome to guests from around the world. We have 3,100 domestic hotels and want the U.S. to capture the greatest possible share of the growing global travel market. Brand USA has begun the marketing campaign that will accomplish that. I want to offer my thanks to you, Madam Chair, and to several of your colleagues on the subcommittee for your votes supporting passage of the Travel Promotion Act that led to the creation of Brand USA. Marriott has kept its promise to support this public-private partnership. We have made a $1 million cash investment in the organization, supported by a $2 million pledge of in-kind contributions. We see great potential in Brand USA's marketing work. We would appreciate your continued support on this important campaign. We also need to ensure that international travelers are able to enter the U.S. as easily and quickly as security allows. We were thrilled to see the administration unveil its National Travel and Tourism Strategy last week. The strategy contains a number of concrete proposals to achieve our international visitation goals. We still need Congress to bolster the administration's efforts. Marriott urges members of the subcommittee to support passage of reforms to our visa and entry process. Bills being championed by Congressman Heck and Quigley in particular offer an easy means to increase the number of inbound international visitors and increase domestic economic activity. In fact, just yesterday, the JOLT Act was introduced into the House that combines these 2 bills and is a companion bill to the House and the Senate. We would ask for your support for the JOLT Act. Finally, with respect to domestic travel, I wanted to echo some of the comments made by my colleague Jeff Freeman. As we all know, the GSA has been scrutinized for the over-the-top meeting that they had in Vegas in 2010. We understand and agree with the expectation of the American public that non-essential spending be cut from federal agency travel budgets. Marriott urges Congress to take appropriate, responsible actions to accomplish that task. Inflammatory and reactionary rhetoric about wasteful federal employee trips has prompted the cancellation of numerous legitimate agency meetings. This hurts our business. In the few weeks since multiple congressional committees excoriated the GSA, Marriott has seen approximately $4 million in cancellations of signed contracts with agencies from across the federal spectrum. The number of cancellations is growing daily. Several examples of these cancellations are in my written testimony. A few weeks ago, the loss in government business may translate to lost jobs at Marriott hotels. Congress and administration should pursue policies that preserve the ability of federal agencies to hold appropriate meetings while strengthening oversight to ensure that those events are conducted according to the rules. Marriott wants to continue to compete for the opportunity to provide federal agencies with quality meeting spaces at a good value. I will conclude by saying that the services Marriott and its employees provide cannot be automated or shipped overseas. As a result, the growth of our company and industry represents a major opportunity to boost domestic employment. We hope Congress will see the value in seizing opportunities to boost travel and tourism in the United States as part of its broader agenda to put Americans back to work. Again, thank you for this opportunity to share Marriott's job creation strategy with the subcommittee, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. And Mr. White, welcome, and you are recognized for your 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chairman Bono Mack, Ranking Member Butterfield, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on our destination, Greater Palm Springs, the oasis in the California desert. It's an important industry for us. It's the leading industry for our destination, creating over 24,000 jobs and producing over $2.1 billion in economic impact. And it was very nice to see the pride and everybody has in their different destinations and how they talk so elegantly about the reasons why we should visit their destinations. Prior to Palm Springs, I spent time in both Phoenix and San Antonio and was able to see firsthand the different dichotomies that happen with international visitation into a destination. And I encourage all of you to work with your state offices or your CBBs to go on the road and take that passion and maybe attend Powwow, World Travel Market, ITB, and see firsthand what we're competing with on a global basis. We were fortunate this past year to bring some mayors with us to Powwow, and I think it opened a lot of eyes. It certainly did help us for our destination to show that we are competing globally. And for our destination, it really does affect the small business owner. We have over 1,300 partners that work with us on a daily basis to really try to keep their employees gainfully employed and really dedicated to the passion that they have, which is this industry. We're a seasonal destination, and we really see fluxes between high season and low season, and our low season is the summertime. And summer for us really is an opportunity for international visitation. We see travelers from the UK, from Germany, from all over the world that come, and they're very interested in our destination because of our national parks, Joshua Tree National Park, San Jacinto State Park, and we encourage you to support and really work with the national park system to make sure that those parks are fully funded and fully have the opportunity to create the enhancements they have and to grow, because that is a big driver for our destination and many destinations around the country. We're very fortunate to have a lot of growth in the past year. This first quarter was seeing growth in occupancy of 12%. Occupancy is up 6%, RevPAR is up 12%, ADR is up, and we're starting to see our businesses continue to add jobs back into the destination. It's vital for us to have this relationship with Brand USA. We do not have the budget or the resources or the manpower to reach the emerging markets that we've identified. Our number one markets are Canada, United Kingdom, Germany, Australia, and France. However, we see that there's pent-up demand from China, India, South America, and many other destinations that are interested in our destination, but we cannot communicate to them nor have the resources to really get that message across about the destination. And I think we talked a lot today about jobs and the opportunities that it brings, not only economic impact, but my experience has been when I travel abroad and we have international visitors that come into our destinations, whether it's the Alamo at the Riverwalk or it's Phoenix going to the Grand Canyon, or for Palm Springs, visiting Joshua Tree for the first time, it really breaks down the barriers that the people had about the perceptions of this destination. I can't tell you how many times international travelers would come into the destination with this perception that we're this country that is not welcoming to international visitors. And once they meet our partners, they explore our destination, they have an opportunity to meet with us, have a relationship, develop friends, and create these acquaintances that really not only impacts us as a destination, but impacts our entire country. So we're very excited to be partnering with Brand USA. What it brings beyond marketing, I think, is an opportunity to re-invite people to our destination, re-educate them about the opportunities here. And we have found, and I have found through my experiences working at CBBs, both, again, in Phoenix, San Antonio, and in Palm Springs, is that when we have these opportunities to invite these individuals to our destination, they're not only coming as a consumer to spend money and shop and have a good time, but they're also business owners. They're also looking for opportunities to expand. They're also looking for opportunities to invest. And we're seeing more of that. So this is a great opportunity and tool for our country, our destination, and for us as a community to really work together to get the message across that we're a vibrant community, we're a welcoming community, and we have a lot to opportunity. So the services and support that Greater Palm Springs provides to our partners and community are vital to our destination's economy. We appreciate your time today and opportunity to share our viewpoint. We hope Congress recognizes the importance of tourism in the United States and will support programs that will increase travel and ultimately put more Americans back to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. White. Dr. Long, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, I do believe that the Travel Channel missed a great opportunity today, not being here to film all of your respective comments about your states. Chairman Bono Mack, Ranking Member Butterfield, and members of the committee, I do appreciate sincerely the opportunity to make comments today. My name is Pat Long. I'm the founding director of the Center for Sustainable Tourism, now located at East Carolina University. We are the only such research center in the country, and we now host the first and only interdisciplinary Master of Science graduate degree, a Master of Science in Sustainable Tourism. I want to acknowledge and compliment all of those who have worked so hard to develop this national travel and tourism strategy, particularly John Bryson and Ken Salazar. And I am speaking today on the subject of sustainability in tourism. And that means balancing profitability with social and environmental responsibility. And I would also like to direct some comments to rural tourism as well. Let me begin my comments by stating that there is nothing more unsustainable than a bankrupt business, nor is there a tourism destination that I'm aware of in the country that attracts visitors with polluted water and air, with a trash-infested beach or mountain, that has poor stewardship of its environment or natural resources, has offensive or no hospitality, that destroys its community sense of place, and that treats its employees and the residents of the region with disdain. The move to sustainability in our nation's tourism industry recognizes that economic gain and job growth quickly go away if the tourism product is not protected. Thus, I offer you a working definition of sustainable tourism. It should contribute to a balanced and healthy economy by generating tourism jobs, revenues, and taxes, while protecting and enhancing the destination's social, historical, cultural built, and natural resources for the enjoyment of both residents and visitors. Why do destinations want sustainable tourism? Well, it decreases their costs, it improves their profits, creates greater brand recognition, enhances their reputation, increases market share, increases employee loyalty and cost savings, contributes to the overall well-being of the community, and improves relationships or meets regulations with government entities. Now, I understand that jobs are paramount in the thinking of many of us, but tourism will not be considered an acceptable rural economic development strategy if it does not serve the needs of local residents in both preserving and honoring what is held most dear, and that is their community and those elements and components that contribute to their sense of place. For just a moment, I'd like to have you think about the opportunity of hosting a substantial number of travelers from Europe, but these travelers want to come to your state because they would like to have a sustainable travel experience. Now, that means they want to have a green team but no greenwashing. They want green accommodations built to the highest standards of green building. They want locally grown foods, organic foods, foods that are palatable to those that have intolerance to certain food types. They want tour operators who provide educational and responsible nature-based cultural and historic experiences. And they want to travel through rural regions or destinations, places with character and places with a sense of place. Now, if that question was directed to Congressman Butterfield and about North Carolina, I suspect he and his staff would note the Proximity Hotel. That is the nation's first LEED certified at the platinum level property in the United States. It has cut its energy use by 40%, its water use by 30%. Its elevator, when it descends, generates energy that feeds back into the system. It has over 100 solar panels on its rooftop. Their staff would talk to you about Mother Earth Brewery and the Chef and Farmer in Kinston. Chef and Farmer is a farm-to-table food property, a high-end restaurant. Mother Earth Brewery is what it is, and it's one of the most attracting entities to the town of Kinston. We have the Roanoke River Partners. We've got Beaufort, which is the coolest small town in America, and currently working with the center to become the nation's first fully carbon neutral sustainable rural community here in our country. In summary, I just want to say that I think sustainability should be an ethic and a value with all aspects of the tourism industry and should in fact be reflected within our national tourism strategy. All of the federal agencies represented on the Interagency Council have some type of sustainable initiatives and or sustainability office. And finally, rural communities throughout the country, in addition to our gateway communities, should be encouraged to plan thoroughly to effectively use their history, culture, and natural resources to develop a tourism industry that is acceptable to their community. My thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Long, and I will recognize myself for 5 minutes for questioning, and I just want to start by saying that it's clear that we all share a very strongly held belief that USA is the #1 brand in the history of the world. But I'd like to ask my first questions to Mr. White. Have you already had interaction with CTP or Brand USA as of yet? If yes, how would you describe that interaction? And if not, what is your understanding of how Brand USA will assist our tourism campaign back home?
We have had interaction with Brand USA. We were fortunate to be involved on many different fronts. I think they've really reached out to try to gain insight from all the different destinations. The research that they've conducted shows exactly what Dr. Long had talked about, is that the international traveler is looking to get beyond the gateway cities. The international traveler is very savvy. They know how to use the internet, and the tour operators, they know how to find the niche markets. And I think it's an opportunity for us to not only expand upon the opportunity we have to reach those international destinations, but more importantly for us, it's the emerging destinations like a China and India or South America that we haven't been able to reach as we have in the past through the internet that they have, the social media they're going to have, the ambassador program they're going to have. And so they're relying on our assets and the programs that we're creating to partner up with what they're trying to create, because they can give the message, but we have to deliver the product for that person to experience. And we want to make sure we're delivering the right product with our partners as well.
Do you have any of the fears that a number of the members have sort of alluded to about picking and choosing winners? I've asked the question of the Secretary also. Are you worried that they're going to be picking and choosing?
No, I've been in this industry my entire life, and one thing that I've noticed, and this happens at a regional level as well, we see that when we just launched our brand last week and we show a video and people start to become concerned, I wasn't in the video, am I going to be realized? And it happens as well. This organization is really trying to get the message out, is that this country, this destination is in a brand new day. It's going in a new life cycle. There's a new environment here. And the individual is going to seek out through the internet, through the different avenues, looking for that information. If they're going to look for Palm Springs, it's incumbent upon me to make sure that my internet, my information is connecting emotionally with that particular person. So I can't put the entire burden on Brand USA to say, you need to represent me as a destination. I just want you to say, consider the United States before you consider Dubai or Japan or other destinations if you're coming from the UK or Germany, so at least I can get my foot in the door and really start to compete for that business through a Joshua Tree or Mount San Jacinto. So we really want to emphasize that their role is that they cannot impact everybody specifically all the time 100%. It's physically impossible. But really want to change the perceptions that people have internationally about our destination to give me the opportunity then to sell my product that we have.
To compete within.
Exactly.
That's terrific.
Give me that first edge.
Do you see any issues that fall within the Congress or the administration's domain that must be addressed to facilitate the attraction of and travel by international visitors? Anything else other than Brand USA that you'd like for us to do now to help?
Well, Jeff talked about this as well. Obviously, we need to be easy to do business with. It has to be easy to get a visa. It must be easy to get through customs. It must be easy to get through TSA. If they don't have an experience that's positive as they go through the process, and it's easy to get here, and it's not time-consuming and overburdened, they're going to go to other destinations that are more welcoming in that regard. So even though we may have a great campaign that says that we are a welcoming destination, we need to prove that as they come through the process at the airports, at the different gateways into our country.
Thank you. Ms. Harrison, you testified that Marriott has already invested both funds and in-kind contributions with Brand USA. Can you describe your interaction with Brand USA and how you see that relationship evolving to be the most beneficial?
We work very closely with Brand USA and with U.S. Travel Association with Jeff Freeman also, and we are very happy that we've been able to contribute to the Brand USA. If you look at the statistics, just take China for example, by the year of 2030, 130 million Chinese are expected to travel to the United States. They spend on average $7,000 a trip. By partnering with Brand USA, hopefully we can get more Chinese visitors to come to the United States, to go to Vegas, to go to places like that instead of Macau and Australia where they currently are going to. And if we get just 10% of that number that's expected to come to the United States, we would have to build new airports, put new gates on, and we would create a number of new jobs. So it would be very exciting. So we're very excited about our work with Brand USA to get more international travelers to the United States.
Thank you. That's awfully good to hear. Mr. Freeman, you recommended adding countries to the visa waiver program. What are the impediments that you see to approving a country to the list?
The great aspect about the new visa waiver program that is strongly supported by the Department of Homeland Security is that putting countries into this program actually makes America more secure. We saw that with the recent additions of Eastern European countries as well as South Korea in recent years. Right now there is a barrier to further visa waiver expansion due to the creation or the implementation of what is considered a biometric exit system. We need to address that issue. There's legislation that exists to address that issue so that we can target countries like Brazil that meet our standards, that we can begin to have the conversation with them about increasing their security, their cooperation on lost and stolen passports, and other issues to make America more competitive. As was mentioned earlier, as South Korea was entered into the program, we've seen upwards of a 40% increase in South Koreans coming to the United States. We can expect that and greater from Brazil and other countries if we put the right policies in place to get them into that program.
Thank you very much. My time has expired. Mr. Butterfield, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Let me thank the chairman and thank the five of you for your testimony today. I've been listening very carefully, and it's been very informative. I thank you so very much. I listened with great interest to the testimony of Ms. Harrison. Ms. Harrison, when I was a youngster, I live in North Carolina. Twice a year, my family would drive from North Carolina to New York City. And we would come up what was called the Shirley Highway. They didn't have 95 or 395. It was the Shirley Highway. And in order to get to New York City, you had to go across the 14th Street Bridge on up to New York Avenue and make a right turn and right on through Baltimore and up to New York City. It was a 12-hour trip. Today it's 8 hours. But we would always break our trip at your grandparents' hotel. And it was $19 a night. I want you to remember that. It was $19 a night, and I thought, as a youngster, I thought that was so much money to be spending for a hotel. But I have great memories of staying at that property. And so welcome to the committee, and thank you for your contribution to this space.
You're welcome, and thank you for being such a great customer.
Yes. That must have been in 58, 59, I suppose. Yeah.
It opened in 1957, so hopefully you also stopped at some hot shops along the way, along the turn.
We did. I was born in 47, so yeah, I was about 11 or 12 years old. I remember it so well. Let me direct my question to you, Mr. Freeman. Thank you very much for your testimony. I want to talk about highway tolls. I don't know if that's something that you pay much attention to, but it's a real hot issue in my state. My State Department of Transportation recently announced plans to toll Interstate 95. That highway is one of the most heavily traveled interstates in the entire country. And it just so happens that that interstate highway runs right through my congressional district, and so I'm opposed to it. It would cost, we are told, $19 for a typical car to travel from the Virginia border to the South Carolina border through our state. I know this will impact my constituents in my district, and they have expressed frustration over this tolling plan. And so I've introduced a bill to try to deal with that. In addition to North Carolina's tolling plan, there have also been talks about tolling Interstate 95 in Virginia, our neighbor to the north. And I suppose that toll could cost as much as $19 or $20. And so when you put the $20 in Virginia together with the $20 in North Carolina, that's $40 for a tourist to travel from the New England part of the country, perhaps down to Disney or to Myrtle Beach or Charleston or some of the southern destinations. That's $40, not to mention the cost of a truck, a commercial vehicle to make that trip. And then when they return back to their point of origin, that's another $40. That's $80 in tolls that's added to the family's budget. And I'm fearful that this may discourage to some extent our tourism and traffic. In your opinion, how does tolling impact tourism, if you have any words of wisdom on that?
Well, Mr. Butterfield, I think your comments are valid and well taken. When you look at travel in this country, about 85% of it takes place by car. So it's certainly an issue that we need to address. We have a significant infrastructure challenge in this country. Certainly our infrastructure is falling behind that of other nations around the world. Our own civil engineers give our roads a D- when it comes to infrastructure. We also lack a way to pay for the necessary reforms. So we would look forward to working with you and others in finding a long-term and sustainable funding model for improving the nation's infrastructure. Tolls may or may not play a role in that space, and we have not done any research to date to see the effectiveness or the effect that tolls have on the decision to travel. But what we do know is we have to take our infrastructure weaknesses seriously and make some of the improvements that are necessary.
And as state budgets begin to get strained, this is going to be a problem even more in the out years. You know, how to maintain interstate highways. Do you do it with tolling, or is there some alternative mechanism for doing it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dr. Long, you're from the eastern part of North Carolina. I'm sure you've heard this debate, and I'm right squarely in the middle of it. And certainly I understand the importance of planning for the future, but I also understand the strain that's being placed on tourists and local families. Can you help us with this? Yeah.
I do not have the expertise to respond in a really credible way at the moment, but it is a topic that is on our radar screen and that we are collecting information as we speak to better understand the various aspects of that issue.
And you can certainly appreciate the interests that have to be balanced in making this decision.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Again, Dr. Long, I was very interested to hear about how various businesses in the travel and tourism sector have taken to an ethic of sustainable tourism, not just because it is the right thing to do for the environment, but also because certain steps can save a great deal of money, even in the short to medium term. Is my time out? All right. I yield back. Hey, Greg. How are you?
Good to see you.
All right.
The gentleman yields back. The chair will now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Olson, for 5 minutes.
All right. I thank the chair, and welcome to the witnesses. Thank you for your time and your expertise today. And it's unfortunate that my colleague from Kansas had to leave a little bit early, but I can assure you, when I get to see him on the floor today, I'm going to tell him that while I was shamelessly promoting the Lone Star State, my slogan that, you know, Texas is like the other country, I was indirectly promoting Kansas, because for about 9 years, the southwestern part of Kansas was part of the Republic of Texas, part of the country that was Texas. So, if it's good for Texas, it's good for Kansas. My first question for you, Mr. Evans. You know, you mentioned in your opening statement that, you know, our share of international arrivals declined by 37% from 17% of the world market to 12.4% today. If we just maintain our market share over that period, you mentioned 467,000 American jobs would have been created. We want to ensure that everyone, rural and urban, benefits from Brand USA's marketing efforts, but we also need to make sure it operates beyond controversy and that we target true foreign destinations that foreign visitors want to go to. I mentioned in my comments earlier that Buffalo Gap, Texas, pretty steakhouse there. That's a great destination. They'll even give you a cowboy hat. But very few people, I think, from overseas want to go to Prinny's in Buffalo Gap, Texas. So what is the policy of Brand USA regarding the promotion of a particular location to make sure that we truly target where foreign tourists will visit?
So I'm not sure it's policy, but our work pattern is that we will work with anyone and everyone and have interest in working with all states. In fact, we have a program under development right now with the state of Texas through Julie Chase, who is your head of tourism, and to make sure that we are co-marketing together to help her to approach the issues that she's dealing with and trying to increase international tourism by helping her expand her investments by, you know, adding her into some of the investments that we'll be making with our brand. So as far as, you know, individual towns are concerned, that's probably a more difficult issue because they really don't have the budgets to partner. So we would expect that they would look to Julie and the state of Texas to make sure they're partnering with Brand USA to extend their marketing reach as far as possible.
So the states become the liaison between you and the people back home.
The states and many CVBs.
Outstanding. Great. Thanks. Question for you, Ms. Harrison. First of all, I want to thank you because the Marriott Hotel in the town center in Sugar Land, Texas, where I live, my home, is doing its share to promote international tourism. And let me explain that. I mean, a recent study found that the greater Houston area was the most diverse, ethnically diverse, large city in America. Number one. In Fort Bend County, where I live, was the most diverse part of the greater Houston area. In fact, this past Saturday, I was at a wedding there at the Marriott there in Town Center, and it was very. I was at the wedding. I was at another event, but there was a wedding going on, and these were Indian Americans, and many of those people had to get passports and had to come here, and they found a home at your hotel for a couple of days, and I thank you for that. The one thing you guys couldn't accommodate was the bride could not ride in on the elephant. You guys had no room for the elephant there. But you're doing your share. I mean, I just want to follow up on the comments that the chairman had when she was here. But how are you using Brand USA to coordinate with the federal offices that are involved in this process that are the first panelists mentioned? You know, federal governments, we've got these offices, boards, all these groups out there. How are you communicating with them, with Brand USA, to make sure that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, that you're not duplicating your efforts at Marriott, because you guys are doing great things?
We have a lot of associates in our corporate headquarters, and we have several of them that work very closely with Brand USA in the marketing department, and part of our in-kind contributions are coming from working with them on the marketing and putting things up on our websites, and we work in concert with them to help promote the United States as a destination through our channels. We have huge distribution channels with our reservation channels, and many people go online every year, and so we work with them to market Brand USA. So we have several people in our corporate headquarters that work very closely with them. We work closely with them on the policy pieces of it, trying to get our visas streamlined and the wait times down, and so that they can market that. Part of what Brand USA does that we find that's so valuable is that they also educate the traveling public as to what's expected when they go to the consulates. You know, the fingerprints have to be taken, those kinds of things. So they market, but they also educate, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. It sounds like a true quasi-public-private partnership that works very well. One final question for you, Mr. Friedman. Run out of time, but how does the wait time for the U.S. entry screening process compare to other similar nations? How we're doing? I mean, it sounds like we're not doing very well.
When it comes to visa wait times, America's at a huge competitive disadvantage. Brazilians are not required to have a visa to go to Western Europe. That puts America, when you consider that the U.S. often had a wait time of over 90 days, 100 days at times, it put America at a huge competitive disadvantage. And we heard talk before of perhaps America is losing visitors because of competition. Another way of saying that is America's losing visitors because of its lack of competitiveness, because we're not putting the policies and the resources in place to put ourselves on par with our competitors around the world. The State Department has made great strides. What we all need to do is help them to make these things sustainable with some of the policies we discussed earlier.
Thank you. Out of time, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair will now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gonzalez, for questions for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Real quick observations, then I'll ask a question. But you heard me question the Undersecretary or Assistant Secretary about coordinating their effort through the different agencies and departments. You really need to be keeping us informed as to where you don't see that coordination taking place. The reason for it, by the very nature of the beast, all of these different departments and agencies have different priorities. You know, DHS is going to be obviously different even from State Department. State Department is going to be different than Department of Commerce. We run into this all of the time, and it is a legitimate factor that we need to take into consideration. I heard you about government conferences, agencies and departments. You're going to see more of that. We are really cutting spending, both sides of the aisle. I mean, it's just going to be out there. So I think you need to prepare for that. And I see organizations and associations, bar associations and such, doing the same thing because of the teleconferencing that is out there, and it is cheaper. It has tremendous impact. Scott White will tell you, I'm from San Antonio. I don't have to tell you what the tourism and convention industry means to my city. I'm not happy about it, and yet I don't know how we're going to be able to resolve that. When we're talking about austerity measures and such, you need to be explaining that to your members of Congress, that there are real economic consequences to you, your business, and to jobs throughout America. Mr. Long, you pointed something out. 2 weeks from today, at least I hope that I'll be in Northern California. The first thing I'm checking are all the state parks, hours of operation, maintenance, and everything else. It's not what it used to be. You're not real sure what's open anymore. And I know California may be unique in some ways, but I've been in New Mexico too. It is not the same, and that is a very, very real concern to me. Seeing the other thing on, of course, infrastructure, the truth is we know what it would take. We're just not willing to pay for it. I've said this often, and I know that President Eisenhower set out to build an interstate highway system that has served us well to this very day. And people tell me that back then he was able to sell it on the proposition there was a national security issue. I don't know if that's true or not. I do know this, that he raised substantially the tax on gasoline. Now, that's what it really takes to do anything in this country regarding our bridges and our roads and infrastructure. It's not going to happen. This Congress would not have embarked on an interstate highway system. That's just a fact. I don't know if anybody here is going to dispute that or not. With that, let me ask you this, Mr. Evans. How do people get information before they travel? I think we all know the answer, but you tell me.
I think in a variety of ways. But I think in today's marketplace, I'll give you several. One is our website, discoveramerica.com. Now, all of our states have websites that people will use to gain information. Travel agents around the world, wholesalers around the world provide that type of information. As well as social media has become a great resource for people as they begin to plan trips. We have an application on our website called Suitcase that people can click into and investigate states and cities and begin to put together their trip through not only checking the cost of flying, but checking the cost and the mileage of driving. So it helps them plan trips. So I think today, with the social media, with our website, and with the network of the travel industry, people have more resources than ever to investigate and to plan their trips.
So in a word, it is the Internet. This committee has jurisdiction over telecommunications. We probably have a greater intimate knowledge of how it works from its infrastructure to every moving part. You also need to be telling us how it serves you, problems that you have, and we know the world has changed. And how do you get your message out there? It may not, search engine placement is placement, advertising is advertising, and you have a bunch of middle people now. Basically, I could go to a Marriott website, but the truth is I've got all these brokers out there. And we need to understand that, and where you think we can be of assistance, you need to be telling us. I only have a few seconds, so your answer has to be very precise and concise. What is the one thing, if you ask Congress to do today and we could grant it, what is the one thing to help you? In just 5 seconds.
I would keep focusing on visa waiver issues and improving that process. And do everything that people can to support Brand USA and our messaging around the world.
Mr. Freeman.
Listen to Jim's advice on the visa waiver program.
Visa? Ms. Harrison?
Listen to Jim also.
Scott?
Agree. Visa waiver program.
I agree, and add a strong element of research to that as well.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman yields back. Chair will now recognize himself for questioning for 5 minutes, and we thank each of you for being here. And I can assure you, despite my friend's comments about the interstate highway, it's clear that highways, roads, bridges have always had strong bipartisan support. It's imperative that we do that. But I would start with this, if I could, and ask Mr. Freeman, how much do gasoline and aviation fuel prices affect the type of travel we're talking about today?
There's no doubt that as travel becomes more expensive, it has a consequence on how it's used. At the same time, however, we've seen that travelers are awfully resilient. We saw that as gas prices rose in 2007. We saw it again earlier this year as gas prices rose. When you look at that increase of even $1 a gallon, when you look at it over the cost of a trip, you may be adding $20 to the cost of your trip. Certainly, when you look at fuel prices, you have some serious issues there, and the fuel prices have led the airlines to put in place many new ancillary fees that drive certain costs of travel now. Those are certainly a concern for many travelers. We're particularly concerned about the issue of carry-on bag fees and the effect that has, and it all starts with those fuel prices, the effect that has on the TSA experience. According to TSA, you've seen a $260 million cost to taxpayers because of the increase of 50% of bags coming through.
When it comes down between an individual family that might be traveling versus, say, a group tour, does that gas at the pump have a bigger impact for that group tour?
Well, it certainly could. The data tends to show that travelers are awfully resilient.
Sure.
But that's not an excuse for not finding a long-term energy policy. We certainly need to get that figured out.
Certainly. And if there's a way to get gas prices back down, that's going to help tourism. That's a given?
It will certainly help.
Okay. All right. And if we're are the international travelers that when you're giving that response, you're referring to domestic as well as international travelers?
I'm largely referring to domestic. The one thing we've seen with international travelers, even when the currency in the United States, when the dollar was weak, we weren't seeing the number of visitors that we needed. The visa policies, the entry policies, the promotion are the key things with international travelers.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mr. Evans, have you identified any areas where the administration or Congress can assist in growing the number of international visitors by revisiting any particular regulations or laws other than the visa waiver?
I'm not sure about regulations or laws, but we're working right now with the State Department and helping them to, them helping us to launch our promotions in country. And right now we're looking at some test operations in Canada and in France and Germany that we hope to launch before the summer's out, to where we would do something to help improve the experience of waiting in the waiting area for visa processing, as well as we launch, because our ambassadors have so many contacts in country, that they could help us meet many of the leaders in the community. And so we're talking about some launch parties in those test countries also.
And I'm just curious, you stated that you estimate current in-kind contributions around $20 million, I believe.
It's a hard number to just hold to. I think in our pipeline right now we're probably $31 million, but the process of valuing that at fair market brings it down somewhere near $20 million.
Well, can you discuss what those in-kind contributions entail?
It's a variety of things. It's everything from an airline seat or a hotel room, where we're given access to those assets to build travel packages around or to use internally for our own personal travel. We have a team of people going out to Marriott this Friday. I think it's our third meeting to begin talking about how we can create in-kind marketing opportunities. That ranges from everything, but from putting our logo on your advertising to your website to creating a 50-50 cooperative marketing opportunity.
Got you. All right. At this time, I'll recognize the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Kinzinger, for a question for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to echo what your comments you made about the interstate system. This is a majority that's been very supportive of infrastructure. I think it's important to say. But I thank you for the time, and I'm glad we're all on the same page when it comes to the importance of increasing our travel and tourism in the United States. Obviously, a very important industry. Increased travel achieves significant foreign policy objectives as well by introducing international visitors to our best goodwill ambassadors, which is our citizens. In fact, if you go out on the mall here in Washington, D.C., you are shown, many people from around the world that come and get their picture taken in front of a great symbol of what American freedom is, either it's the Capitol or the White House. Or any of the other landmarks. I'm a co-sponsor of the Welcoming Business Traveler and Tourists to America Act, which will remove the self-imposed barriers in the business and tourist visa application process that's presently discouraging travel to the United States, as we've talked about. I'm working to ensure that hopefully we'll see action in the House on this legislation before the end of the year. For a moment, though, I want to switch gears and turn our attention to U.S. citizens traveling abroad. I've been concerned about the health and safety of U.S. travelers abroad and ensuring that our consumers have important safety and health information when booking international travel online. I'm the lead sponsor of the International Travelers Bill of Rights, which is a bill that would require online travel operators to display certain health and safety services available at hotels, and it requires the State Department to update the record of overseas deaths of U.S. citizens from non-natural causes on a monthly basis, including locality. It's so much easier for consumers to book foreign travel online, and they may or may not be aware of the safety and health problems at a particular hotel or region that is present without this information. So my first question is to Ms. Harrison and Mr. Freeman. Do you believe that consumers have enough information when booking foreign travel at a hotel that is not U.S. owned or U.S. based?
I'm not sure that I have the expertise to speak on that, but this has come up before, and our feeling is that you're able to contact if you go online and you book a hotel room at one of our hotels overseas, you are also able to contact that hotel and ask those pertinent questions that may concern you and may worry you. As far as having lifeguards at every pool and those kinds of issues, that's sort of done by a regional basis and a hotel-by-hotel basis. I think that the information is accessible online, and the customers are certainly welcome to call our general managers.
And I don't think, necessarily American-based hotels, even overseas, are as big of a problem as what we see is hotels that are owned and operated overseas. I had a specific case of somebody in my district who lost a son, and this is information that would have been probably very handy to him. Mr. Freeman, do you have any input on this at all?
We're an organization that's entirely focused on travel to and within the United States. I think your last comment is important, though, because the access to information is what will be difficult for many, perhaps, of those tour operators and others booking that travel overseas. If they don't have access to the information, it's going to become very difficult to share it.
And I don't know if anybody else in the panel had any thoughts on it or anything. Okay. And do you believe the current State Department, it's probably along the same lines, you'll probably give me about the same answer, but do you believe the current State Department travel warnings and overseas death notifications are distributed in a manner that's useful in informing travelers of any unforeseen dangers? Anybody? Same basic answer on that. Okay. I think it's an important, and I understand where your all areas of expertise are, but I think it's something that obviously is very important when we talk about U.S. citizens traveling abroad, that they have that information available to them. So with that, thank you for your patience in coming in today, and I'll yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I want to thank each of you for being here today. You've added some valuable insight and been a great resource for the committee. And we wish each of you well, and as we travel across the country, we hope we'll see you again. I remind members that they have 10 business days to submit questions for the record, and I ask the witnesses to please respond promptly to any questions they may receive. This hearing is now adjourned.